Hello, boys and girls of the internet. My name is Beard in Marketing, and today let's talk about a very interesting topic in marketing. The topic I want us to talk about is distribution. So, one of the things that people will get you to do when you start a business is, number one, they will want you to start a social media page. They want you to have some digital presence, right? Being on digital is one of the most important things when you start a business. But is it? My answer would be, it depends on the business that you're doing. So, for instance, I'll give you a case in point. So, myself, I have a digital agency called Dreamers Inc. Now, with Dreamers Inc., because it's a digital agency, we don't need a physical presence, right? In terms of us distributing our products, distribution of our product is mainly on online social media and stuff like that. We don't need to have our product sent out, because our product is essentially, we can export our product to anywhere. Yeah. If somebody needs our services in Germany, we just need to hop on a call and we can easily distribute our product. So it's easier when it's a service-based industry. So for a service-based industry, it makes a lot of sense for you to be on social media and making sure that you're pushing your product out in social media. Now, let's assume you're in another business, the fast-moving consumer goods business. You've started a fast-moving consumer goods business. Let's assume the business that you started is you're selling tomato paste. Now, if you're selling tomato paste and you're selling it online, I think that's a really good way to start. Don't get me wrong. It's a good way to start. Now, if you want to hack the market, especially in Kenya, will you be able to hack it online? Very difficult unless you come up with a very proper route to market strategy on how you're going to get your product to market. But then if you want to make your product hack in Kenya, one of the things that you just need to do is you need to make sure that you're in the stores. Now, getting into Kenyan stores is interesting. Kenyan stores are the Kenyan landscape, the Kenyan trade landscape is very different from other markets, right? So our market has it's very informal. So if you look at the Kenyan market, you have a lot, like most of the shops that you're looking at are either the shops that are in your estates or your mama mboga, that small kiosk. Those are the majority of the shops. We call them in marketing, we call it general trade, GT. So most of the shops that you have is general trade and your mama mbogas and stuff like that. Now, one of the problems that you have in Kenya is that you have too many of such shops. So if you say that, for instance, you're going to come up with a product and then you're going to make sure that all the shops, all the mama mboga shops, all the kiosks, everyone has your product, then one of the things that I'll tell you for sure, for free right now, your distribution costs are going to be crazy. Your distribution costs are going to be very, very high. So, this is one of the things that actually kills small businesses which are trying to venture into the fast-moving consumer goods space in Kenya. So distribution. And one of the problems that I've realized that they try to do is that they try to go big. They try to go national all at once. You cannot go national all at once. So what would I advise? What is the advice I would give to a business which is trying to do a fast-moving consumer good and they're trying to get into market? Start small. It's very important to start small, understand the market, understand the nuances around distribution, understand what problems you might have on distribution, and then expand as you learn. So let's go back to my example where I want to sell tomato paste. If I'm selling tomato paste, the first thing I would do is I'm trying to make tomato paste. Let's assume I'm living in Kileleshwa, for instance. If I'm selling tomato paste, I'm making tomato paste in Kileleshwa. I'm making it in my apartment. How do I make sure that the outlets that are close to Kileleshwa, so that I reduce my footprint in terms of the cost on distribution? How do I make sure that all the shops around Kileleshwa have my tomato paste brand? Number one, one of the things that you'll realize is that Kenya is also a very big wholesale market. So if you want to get actually into those mama mbogas, one of the things that you need to make sure that you get into is wholesale. Wholesale is very big in Kenya, and this one you'll be told by anyone who's doing proper fast-moving consumer goods. If you don't have friends in wholesale, chances of your product making it is very slim. So you need to make sure you're in the wholesale outlets. So number one, I go to my wholesalers. I make sure that my wholesalers have stocked my product. And also remember another thing that people also do. People are here to make money. People will not just necessarily fall in love with your product at once. So you have to put in some distribution costs. That wholesaler, what's the incentive, right, to stock your product? If another tomato paste, let's say my competition tomato paste A, is giving the wholesaler a margin of 20 shillings, when I launch my product, in as much as maybe our prices are at parity, let's say the tomato paste A is going for 200 and Saka's tomato paste is also going for 200, what I will then do to the wholesaler is I'll tell the wholesaler, I'll give you a better margin, right? So whereas this other product is getting, they're getting 20 bob for it on each sale, they'll get 25 shillings for mine. So all of a sudden this wholesaler is sitting down and is thinking, hey, so there's more money here, so I better push this product here. It's just a game of pricing, right? In the wholesale general trade scene, if you're looking to get into the general trade space, I think generally in trade, if you want to win, one of the things that you need to do is you need to make sure that, number one, you form relationships, and number two is you need to make sure that the incentives that you're giving to the traders are attractive enough for them to push your product out. But if they decide to push your product, they will push your product. Traders are the most, in terms of brand ambassadors, if you get a trader as your brand ambassador, you are sorted. Let me guarantee you. In as much as, let me tell you, if we are going to look at that tomato paste situation, tomato paste A and Saka's tomato paste, if that trader wants to sell Saka's tomato paste, he will sell it. A consumer will come into the shop, tomato paste A is there, but he's getting how much? He's getting 20 bob on it. He will say, hey, we are out of stock on tomato paste A, but we have Saka's tomato paste. Do you want to try it? Maybe he still has that other tomato paste, but he's giving the consumer a different tomato paste so that the consumer can also try it and give them feedback. And that's how traders, let me tell you, traders are the most, they are super smart. You know, people look at traders and they just think at these people, they don't have money. If you look at the amount of volumes that traders in Kenya do, the reason why people are so against formalizing this informal sector would be, I think it would be in terms of revenue, it would be a huge revenue for the government, because the informal sector is big in Kenya. It's huge. If they're able, the reason why the government is pursuing it so aggressively is because they know that there is a huge potential there, and if they're able to hack into that potential, they'll be getting a reasonable source of revenue, you know, because the turnovers this guys make is not kawaida. It's a lot. Talking to a person who has worked in trade, so it's ridiculous. They turn over a lot of money. It's a game of margins in trade. They might do even sales of over, like a normal shop would do sales of over 200,000 per day. But then in terms of how much they're getting out of that 200,000, maybe they're making like 5,000 or even maybe 2,000 in that day. So it's a game of margin. That's why you'll see a lot of shopkeepers, they are there, they're looking at the math. Does the math make sense? Are we making money out of this? So yeah, one of the problems that we have in Kenya is that people want to launch products, but they want to keep their products on social media. If you want to keep your products on social media alone, I don't think this is a good strategy. If I'm being totally honest and pragmatic with you guys, I think you need to make sure that your product, especially if you're in the fast moving consumer good industry, you need to make sure that your product is actually in trade and it's actually in the footfall of where your consumer is going to be. You don't need to be in all the outlets, but you need to be in outlets. Just being on social media is not sustainable. And then also the fast moving consumer good business is also about margins. That's another thing that we also need to be very cognizant of. It's about margins. At the end of the day, is how do you make sure that how you're getting your product into the market is as cost effective as possible, right? So the question is, how do you make sure that you reduce your distribution costs and you're getting good margins at the end of it all? People always think about how am I going to sell this? How much am I going to sell this product to the consumer? But they don't think about how am I going to get this product to the consumer, which I think for me is a more important question. So ladies and gentlemen, that has been Bearded Marketing, and I think I'm going to end today's episode here. And if you enjoyed this one, make sure you tell a friend to tell a friend, and let's continue growing our marketing community. Over and out.